What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Mission Driven Made podcast. I want to welcome Lauren Hardy to the show, and thank you for being on the show, Lauren.
Thanks for having me, Jacob. What's up, everybody?
Yeah, so I've been really excited to reach out to you and have you on the show. I first heard you on Greg Helbeck's podcast. I know you're friends with him, or you guys have at least worked together a little bit. So before we get into the real estate stuff, I remember you had a pretty inspiring story leading up until that point. So can you kind of talk about what life was like before real estate?
Well, I live in Orange County, California, and life before real estate, at least life before investment real estate, me being an entrepreneur, I was working a full-time corporate job, and it was in corporate real estate. And I had my daughter, Reese. She was only 1 year old at the time. And I was pregnant with Presley. Now they are actually 7 and 10. So to give you, this was a long time ago. And yeah, I was, working corporate life, raising kids. And, I realized that it was very hard to be a mom with a corporate job. I was married at the time, and their dad had a corporate job as well. It was really hard to juggle the balance, between being a parent and having a career. But I didn't want to give up my career. So I went on a mission to find something that I could do from home, so I had control over my time. And it just so happened that my brother started flipping houses a year before I did. And he talked to me about his house flipping experience. And he gave me the idea that, hey, this is something that you could do. You could potentially work from home with, the kids hanging around. And, why don't you give it a shot? And I really, at that moment, I was so desperate to just get out of that corporate hustle. So I did. And yeah, fast forward almost 10 years, here I am.
And if we can zoom in a little bit to kind of that transitional period, because I'm sure you've heard a million times when people are trying to go from working a corporate job to more of an entrepreneurship type of job or role, they struggle thinking they don't have enough time. And obviously you dealt with that transition period where you're probably kind of doing both. So can you kind of talk about how that was? And if it was, it sounds like it would have been pretty challenging, to say the least.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember I just put no excuses. Like, I had a no excuses mentality. And I tell people that you have to do that exact thing. You have to say, I'm going to make it work no matter what. And if that means I have to wake up at 4 a.m, then you're going to have to wake up at 4 a.m. and work before the kids wake up. If that's working till 11, 12 o'clock at night, after you put the kids to bed, then that's what you're doing. So I very much had to put that no excuses mentality. I remember when I got pregnant with Presley, I was very scared that I was going to have the same pregnancy experience as I did with Reese. I got really sick. I had a very rough pregnancy, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to be able to work this corporate job full time, take care of my 1.5-year-old, and be pregnant and be sick. Like, if I'm sick, this will ruin the whole thing. And I swear, I think because I didn't allow myself to get sick with that pregnancy, I had 0 symptoms of pregnancy my entire pregnancy with Presley. Like, I
Wow.
willed it. Like, I willed it that I was refused to feel pregnant. I was like, I'm not feeling pregnant. Like, because I have to make this business work. And my whole plan was that I would take my maternity leave and I would never go back to that corporate job after Presley was born.
Did it work out that way?
It did. It did.
Awesome.
Yes.
I don't know how you guys do it. My wife, with both of our daughters, she was sick, especially with our first one, the entire pregnancy. I'm talking, this is when she was working too. She would go into the bathroom at work and throw up maybe 5-6 times a day, at least, while she was working. So I don't know how you guys do it.
Yeah, that's rough. I didn't have it that bad, but I definitely felt pretty terrible. So yeah, we do it because we have to.
Yeah.
You have no other choice. So.
And then, so you went on leave, and then that was it. Then was it full-time, full-blown real estate investing from there?
Yes. So my goal was that I would have an entire year's salary saved up before I left. So that way I knew that if it didn't work out, I at least have a year to figure it out. So I hit that goal right when I went into maternity leave. So I knew that I was going to be able to make that call to the boss and say, I'm not coming back. And I remember that was such a big day. I mean, I really recommend visualization. Like I visualized that day of calling and saying, I'm never coming back. And that freedom, like I imagine like shackles being like removed from my arms, because I just looked at corporate life like it was jail. I honestly felt like corporate life felt like jail to me. Like every Sunday, I'd get the Sunday scaries. And every Monday, it was like, oh, okay, like my time is now, I am owned by someone else. Like my time is owned from 8 to 5. I have to be here. It doesn't matter. I have to ask to be sick. I have to ask if my kids are sick, and I hated that. I love controlling my life. So
100%. I remember when I quit my corporate job, one of like the last things that got me personally was I had to go pick up my daughter from school, and I went over a little bit of my, hour-long lunch break, and that turned out to be a little bit of an issue. And then I realized I don't want to have to ask someone to go pick up my daughter from school. Like that was kind of one of the last straws for me. So 100% agree with you.
absolutely.
And do you remember your first deal? And if so, can you kind of take us through how that went? I heard it can be, a good couple months before people get their first deal, especially with a flip.
Yeah. So it actually took me 4 months to get that deal. So I was marketing and making offers to seller after seller, and just nobody was saying yes to me. I got close on a couple of them, but no yeses. And I remember it's the funniest thing because the seller that sold me this house, my first deal, somehow I missed him. I don't know how, but we missed each other. And he sent me a letter, snail mail, saying, if you'd like to buy my house, I'm still interested. This is what I'd like for it. Give me a call. And I was like, checked my PO box like, a week later or something, going, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful. I checked my PO box today, and I called him. And at the time, I thought we were still very off on price. Now, I was just uneducated at the time. That was actually a good price, but I actually thought it was too high. So I put him on a follow-up. Like I was like, I'll follow up with him and try to beat him down on price even more. Well, then I was working with my brother at the time. We had the deal that we were going to do my first deal together. So I showed him a stack of my leads. I said, these are all the offers I made. These are all the seller's lowest prices. Like, is there a deal in here? And he goes through them. He picks this one up. He's like, what is this one? He's like, he'd still take that price. I was like, well, I don't know. He did as of a week ago. He's like, call him tomorrow and say yes. Like, okay. So, I mean, the first deal almost slipped away from me like several times. And yeah, we locked that thing up. It was a condo in Laguna Niguel. And right when I always make this joke that right when we bought that house was the last day of the recession, because we bought it and real estate values increased 10% while I held that property and while we were fixing it up. It was only like 2 or 3 months. Real estate values went up. So I had 10% of just built-in equity in there. So we fixed it up, we sold it, and we split like $65,000 between us. So it was such a slam dunk first deal. I definitely had beginner's luck, I think, on that one. And I ended up getting another condo exactly like that shortly after. So my first year was really, really great. I really left my first year thinking I was some sort of prodigy to house flipping. But it was my second year where reality, slapped me in the face. And I realized that this is actually really tough. And it's been, lots of ups and downs since then. So you got good years and you have some bad years too. That's being an entrepreneur.
And I assume in the Orange County area, it's probably pretty competitive for real estate investing, right?
Yes, it's very, very competitive. I would argue this is probably one of the most competitive counties in the country. Definitely. And I know that because I also I have a coaching program where I coach investing out of state virtually. So I have students from all over the country. So yeah, it's crazy here.
And don't quote me on this number, but I heard somewhere about Southern California in particular, around Orange County, and then also in the Bay Area, that sometimes it's costing 10 to 20 grand in like marketing costs to be able to get, you know, an actual lead that you can follow through with and eventually, close the deal. Is that somewhat accurate?
It's actually very accurate. I would start at 10,000. Absolutely. I haven't actually been doing this business in California because of that reason. When my marketing per deal hit 10 grand, I went out of state.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. Since I know you're known for wholesale or wholesaling real estate and doing so virtually, can you kind of tell us what wholesaling is and then how it works virtually?
So house flipping is, think HGTV. You're buying a fixer upper, you're fixing it up, you're making it look really pretty, and then you're putting it back on the market and you're making, a big profit of, let's say that first example, $60,000, right? So what wholesaling is you're finding that deal, but instead of fixing it up, you're going to sell that deal to another investor who's going to be the one that fixes it up. Or that investor might be a landlord. It might be somebody that wants a rental in the area. So wholesaling takes out that risk factor of fixing it up and, putting it back on the market and actually losing money. Instead, you're taking this property, and as soon as you get it under contract, you're talking to your investor buddies, seeing who's interested in it and selling it as quickly as possible, eliminating a lot of risk. The reason I chose to focus on wholesaling was because I went virtual. So I went outside of my backyard. I started flipping houses outside of my backyard, out of state. And what I realized is that construction element was very challenging to manage when you're not there. I was getting taken advantage of by contractors just left and right. I was losing money on these deals. And I realized that this wholesaling strategy is much easier to manage virtually. So I just put my focus on wholesaling and building the biggest investor network I could find and trying to get as many properties we can get under contract and selling to them. And that's been working very well for the last several years.
So if you're doing it virtually, does that just mean you have networks in those areas? Like if you find a deal, you send it to someone that's going to fix and flip it?
Yes, that's exactly it. I have huge, we call them buyers lists. I have a huge buyer base in the territories I'm in.
So do you have like any employees in those areas as well?
Actually, all my employees are virtual. So I have,
Oh, awesome.
yeah. So some are here, local to me. Everybody works from home though. And some I use virtual assistants. I've got some amazing virtual assistants on my team that are Philippine based. And then I do have the local boots on ground. I have some people that are local that, when we do get a house under contract, they can kind of fulfill the next steps where you would need someone locally to be. Yeah.
And in the beginning of all this, like you were saying, the first year you felt pretty good. And then the second year is when you kind of realized how hard it was.
Mhm.
Was there any specific challenges you face outside of the contractors? I know you said you got taken advantage of a little bit.
Honestly, market conditions and the market changing, things that are really outside of my control. So, at that time, throughout actually my entire career, house flipping and wholesaling became incredibly popular. So I am facing a lot of market saturation. So I would go in a market, and at first it might be easy, and then that market becomes saturated because, it becomes popular. Like the example was Southern California. So at first Southern
Yeah.
California was easy because we were in a recession and there was so much, motivation, and real estate was not the hot thing to be in because we were all, kind of getting out of that recession mindset. So at that time, it was easy in California, and then the market started heating up and the competition came. Everybody came out of the woodwork saying, I want to be a house flipper, and the same thing happened in the next market. I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and Nashville was going through a major development boom at the time. So I got in when it was still relatively not that competitive and not that saturated. But shortly after the cat, was out of the bag and people started flooding to Nashville from everywhere, to invest in it. So at that point, I learned to pick markets that are a little bit more stable and balanced. There's not like a major upswing. They're not like in the news for, some sort of, unusual growth pattern. They're just stable. Those are the markets I like to focus on now.
And do you kind of have a market or two that you focus on at one time and then that eventually shifts around? Or how does that work with the markets that you pick?
I do try to stay in the same market as long as I possibly can. The only reason I maybe make shifts, like if I leave one, is because we're just seeing that it's just not profitable anymore. Like, California you gave that example of like $10,000 to get one deal. Like if a market starts looking like that, then yeah, it's time to go. So I do try not to shift. The longer you're in a market, honestly, the more profitable you usually can be because you've really figured it out. You figure it out better. You have, more of an established buyer base there. You have a reputation with sellers. You have a good reputation, in the business. You learn the pricing. I mean, like anything, every market is like learning a whole new business when you go into it. So you don't want to bounce around really.
Right. Yeah. That's why I asked. I just feel like every time you switch, you probably have to do a ton of studying and research about that specific market.
Yes, it is. It's not worth it to switch and bounce around if you can avoid it.
And with all this, with wholesaling specifically, did there come a moment where you were like, okay, I'm going to be successful now? Like you could actually feel it happening and the momentum going.
I mean, I feel like I think like any entrepreneur, you're going to have moments like that, but then you're going to also have moments where you're like, I suck.
Yeah.
I even to this day, I mean, I have moments where I'm like, I'm killing it. And then I have moments where I'm like, I am failing at everything and I need to go get a job.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm.
Yeah. I could definitely relate to what you're saying there.
Yeah.
And when I heard, or excuse me, when I had Greg Helbeck on my show, something I asked him, I also wanted to ask you, was there any deal that went really bad? And can you kind of take us through that?
Okay. Yes. I mean, the first thing that comes up is the time I got sued. So yeah, I had a deal that went really bad. I bought a property and I'm going to maybe give you the shorter version of this story. Essentially, this property had some title issues before I came into the picture. I bought the property and the property had the owner in it that foreclosed on her home and she wasn't willing to move, of course. And she also wasn't really willing to come to terms with the fact that she foreclosed on her house and that the house isn't even hers anymore. And I thought, okay, no, we can handle this. It's a simple eviction, no big deal. This is very common in our business to buy homes like this. So I bought it, I serve her notice, and she tells me, no, something's gone wrong. There's no way you're the owner of my home. You've been defrauded, and so have I. And your money's gone, and my house is gone. And really, we need to go after the person that sold you the home. And she just feeds me this major conspiracy story. So at first I was very new. I actually didn't have that much experience. This was my second year in the business, only like my second year. Okay. This is what I mean. Year two, I got it handed to me. So I was very confused by what she was telling me. I did actually believe her because I was very naive. And I got a hold of the company that sold me the home, who they were the ones that foreclosed on her. It was a small note holder. It wasn't a bank, but it was an investment company. And they sold me the home and they said, nope, she's lying to you, Lauren. Get used to this. This is that side of the business. You get these people that do this. So anyway, I said, okay, never mind. I'm just not going to deal with her on the phone anymore. And I proceeded to evict her. Well, as I proceeded to evict her, one day I get a knock on my door and I got served with a lawsuit that was like 150 pages long. And it it had my name all over it. It had that we had this conversation on the phone with a bunch of lies. She just accused me of a lot of things. There was horrible things written about me, my company, and she had this conspiracy theory of how we conspired to steal her home from her. And what's crazy is a lawyer actually typed this stuff. Like a lawyer actually made causes of action that fit this conspiracy theory. It was absolutely ridiculous. But in any event, it was the most stressful thing still to this date that I think I could ever imagine. Like, I don't know if I've ever been put under that much stress, like physically, when I got that lawsuit. I like lost 5 pounds in like a day. It was like, I had like a gray hair pop up like in my head. Like it was so stressful. I mean, when you get sued especially for your first time, you immediately think you did something wrong. You just assume you did. You're like, what I do? You immediately think you're guilty. And it was like, I was replaying everything in my head. And I'm like, but I didn't do anything wrong. But why does it feel like I did? Because someone's writing these things that you've done something wrong. And, fast forward, I remember going through that period. So I had to hold on to that house. That house was locked up. I couldn't sell it. So I had to figure out how to, pay the expenses of that home. So I had to pay all the holding costs. This took 18 months. So I was looking at going, okay, how am I going to pay all this? Like I have holding costs. I can't sell it. I'm just stuck with this house. We eventually actually got her out of the home. We evicted her successfully. But it was getting broken into all the time. It was very stressful. So I had to, in my head, I just said, well, you're going to have to just make a lot of money this year to pay for this. Like it was crazy how like when there's a fire underneath you, you go. And that year I did the most deals like I'd ever done. Like I never thought I would hit numbers like that. Like it was just because I was so scared that I was going to owe a lot of money, because of this house. So I freaked out. I was like, okay, that's it. Time to go. And I worked so hard. I went from like closing maybe 2 or 3 deals a year to I think I closed 15.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, I went really hard into working and making sure that I was going to have enough money to pay for anything. Now, fast forward, I ended up winning. We were fine. It ended up like gone. Lawsuit was gone. I got the house. I fixed it up. I sold it, made $90,000 profit after all the expenses.
Good.
So it ended up being totally fine.
Is that just inevitable? Like if you're in real estate investing full time, are you going to get sued? Because I feel like I've heard this a couple times.
Yeah. If you do enough deals, you probably will. Sorry to scare you guys.
Oh my gosh. And did anything come of her blatantly lying, or was it just like the end of story?
All of it was. She lied about the whole thing. She lied and she found an attorney. I think she had some sort of personal relationship with the attorney. So he just did it as a favor. He wasn't being paid by her. And he just wrote up a lawsuit and it was very frivolous, but there's nothing I could do about it. The only way to get through a lawsuit is to get through it. That's it. You have to fight it. It's just a game. It's just a game. It's just paperwork. At the end of the day, I now know so much about the legal system and how lawsuits work. And now I am going into my next lawsuit if I ever get one, which gosh, business owners, you do. I know that, I'm going to be a lot calmer about it because I realize it's not personal. She was just someone who was desperate to undo the mistakes she made in her life. And she had a lawyer accessible to her. And she was just doing what she needed to do to save her life. Like to her house was her life. So I forgive her for it. I understand why she did it. I'm okay and at peace with the whole situation. But it was one of the most pivotal moments of my life that calloused my skin and made me like just so much harder as a business person. So I have no regrets. I'm so glad that happened to me.
And did she have any repercussions for all of the lying, or did it just end after the lawsuit?
No, it just ends. That's how it works. That's how lawsuits work. There's no like you lied, so now you're going to jail. It's not like that. It's just Okay, well, that was fun. You lost. All right. But it took 18 months to do that.
And she was in there the whole time for those 18 months, just living there.
No, we got her out. So I was able to evict her.
Oh,
I was
okay. I
able
didn't know if that was during that process or a little bit after.
I was
Okay.
able to evict her, and then the house was vacant. So then the house became
Right.
vacant. It was getting broken into all the time. So then we moved somebody in. Now, then I was now hindsight, I wish I would have made the house livable and then somebody could just rent it for a profit. But the problem was I didn't know if she'd give up on the lawsuit. So if I move someone in and then she gives up and then I have to kick them out
Right.
so what I ended up doing, my contractor, I asked him, I said, do you know anyone that just wants to live somewhere for free? And, they can just hang out here. They don't need to pay me rent, kind of fix up the home just enough to like make it livable. And, as soon as I get this thing out of this lawsuit, they have to move out. And it was the project manager that works for him. He moved his family in and, helped them out a lot. And then my contractor to help me out when we remodeled the home, I think he gave me like a $20,000 discount.
Nice.
Yeah, he hooked me up. So it was a wash. It was like I would have made rental income. So.
Awesome.
Mhm.
And I want to transition a little bit into your schedule because I remember hearing you say something interesting. And tell me if I'm wrong with what I'm about to quote. You said something like, I only check emails on this certain day of the week and I don't work on Friday.
Mhm.
And so I was really interested, one, if that was correct or if I'm making that up in my head. And then two, how did you get to a point where you were so productive and focused that you didn't have to work on Fridays and you can, only check emails a certain time of the week?
It's all about boundaries. I decided that Friday is my favorite day of the week, and I like Friday to be fun Friday, and I don't want to work on Fridays. So if I do work on Fridays, I want it to be creative. So I don't want to be stuck in meetings. I want it to be work, like internal work. Maybe I'm reading, maybe I'm learning a new skill, just something that like I enjoy doing. Creative work, like maybe just like taking time to think about how to improve something in my business, or I'm not working at all and I'm doing something fun with the kids. And yes, email management was something that about a year ago, I said, okay, we got to figure something out because this email, I could spend a whole day in my inbox because the inbox is basically just people soliciting your time, just constantly, just taking your time away from you. And a lot of people just live out of their inbox, like their to-do list is their email inbox. Well, when you get to a certain level, I own two companies right now in two different industries. They, both take a lot out of me. And all these employees, they all have fires that need to be put out. And so they email me about them. I started, creating sort of a hierarchy between people, like to solicit my time or take my time away from me. So, certain employees have to report to other employees that are above them, like their manager. And then I recently hired a manager above everybody who goes cross company with me. So essentially, she is my barrier. Nobody is going straight to me anymore. Everybody has to go to her first. And if she can't answer it, she comes to me. We've also created meeting time. So don't email me. Let's just talk about that in our business development meeting on Tuesdays. So that's been very effective is, hey guys, how about stop emailing me every time you think about something? Instead, if it's still on your mind and you haven't solved it with your direct manager, when we have a meeting, that is the time to bring this up. So I have every 2 weeks, I meet with my accountant. She does all my accounting. So any type of accounting question, I write a little list. If it's something I want to go through, I put it in the meeting invite. So I know, like, talk to, Lindsay about XYZ. And she does the same. And we talk about it every 2 weeks. So we're like, okay, let's, this is when we're going to hash out all our things instead of, hey, emailing back and forth. She only emails me if it's something I really need to do if we don't have a meeting, right? And the same thing goes with everybody in the company. We have regular once a week meeting. You can reach me then. So that's cut out on the need for me to check my email all the time. Now, yes, do things get missed because I only check my email about once or twice a week? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's so many times where I'm like, I'm so sorry, I just saw this. But you know what? If it's that important, they'd have my cell phone number and they would text me. So if you're at a level with me where you don't have my cell phone number, no offense, but you're not that important. Like, I know that sounds bad, but
It's
like,
true.
think about it for your own life, you guys. If they don't have your cell phone number, like then their issue is low level for you and it can wait a week.
And since you transitioned to doing that, how has it been? The last year, I think you said.
Yes. Oh, I mean, much better. I'm way more effective in my day and I actually get projects done. So now my day is run off of a Trello board. I don't run off of my email anymore. I'm looking at Trello and I'm going, what are my mission criticals right now? Mission criticals are like, I take 3 things at a time that I'm like, these are the things I need to get done. And I'm not moving on until these 3 things are done. So I just work on projects, and my other time is spent doing things that actually make me money, like this, like being on podcasts, filming my YouTube videos, stuff that I can't outsource. So yeah, that's how I run, my day. It's not perfect. I'm still working on lifestyle design in this way. There's always some tweaks that, I think we can all make, and I'm still working on it, but it's much better than it was 2 years ago.
And you're doing a lot of coaching too, correct?
Mhm.
So what does it look like if someone hires you as a coach?
Yeah, so I do have a coaching platform, and we coach virtual wholesaling. I coach with Wholesaling Inc. They're a very well known education company, and they have an amazing podcast. And I coach the virtual wholesaling coaching program, since that's my specialty. It comes with an online e-course where I have about 11 modules breaking down your entire virtual wholesaling blueprint. And it also comes with a 6 months coaching program, because just having a course is not enough. There's always going to be these extra questions that students have, because every market is different and has different nuances, and you need that coach to help you through. So the 6 month coaching is really very, very crucial. And so I do the 6 months with students, and then they can also do ongoing coaching if they want to stick with us. The coaching comes with a once a week coaching call. It's a group coaching call. And then we have a forum where you can post questions every day.
Awesome. And then, so you have your businesses, your coaching. Is there any other projects that you're working on, or something in the future that you're working on that you can tell us about?
Yes, I actually have 2 software companies launching soon. So that's totally new space for me. I've never been in the software space, but it started at first with a passion project. Being on the coaching side, I noticed that students had a need for a CRM that not only just managed their leads, but taught them how to manage their sales funnel better, to give them actual sales funnel management training, something that nobody really has unless you've had some sort of sales background that included some professional training. So we created a CRM that does built in teach you how to manage your sales funnel. So very, very excited. That's going to be launching soon. We're in beta mode right now, so we're testing it and making sure there's no bugs. But I hope to be launching it in the next month or two.
Oh,
And then,
wow. Right around
yeah,
the corner.
yeah, right around the corner. Yeah. So we've worked on the CRM for a year. We wanted to make it perfect. I wanted it to fit my students' needs. So it's me and a partner, and we thought about our own employees. So we both have teams and we manage sales professionals, and we wanted to make it easier for us to manage our sales professionals and see what they're doing. But then also I thought about my students, and what does my student need? Like, what does a CRM need to have, and what does it not need to have? Like, a lot of CRMs come with things that people don't even use, and you're getting charged for them. Like, that's why your CRM costs $200 a month. So, we were really just trying to make this perfect package for anybody that is in our business. It's very much geared to real estate investors. But I do also want to make it where realtors as well could use the platform. So our first launch will be more geared towards the real estate investor community, but we are hoping to expand and get some realtors on board. as well. So that's one software. And then we do have another software. I noticed my students needed a simple way to build a website that's geared for like a seller lead website, where if your sellers are interested in reaching you, they can go on the site, type in their address, and they'll get an offer from you. So we built something out like that. And the reason the need really came was I was using a platform, and the platform had a lot of holes. There were a lot of things that weren't customizable that needed to be. I couldn't get it fixed. The only way I could do this and have the website exactly how I needed it to be for my wholesaling business and other people's wholesaling business was to hire a developer. So I called like a website developer, and I got a quote from him, and it was $10,000. I was like, what? Like $10,000, like to start from scratch? Like, no, like, I guess I'm just going to keep with my other platform. But the problem is the platform didn't have these things I needed it to do. So I approached that developer. I said, listen, I've got a bunch of students. I have over 250 students now. My students need this. What if we go into business together and you develop something that is tailor-made for exactly what my students need? And it's going to be, less expensive than, having to start from scratch at 10 grand. So we did just that. And that should be launching as well in the next couple months.
And if someone wanted to check those out in a couple months, where would they go to find those?
Ooh, okay. Well, the CRM is going to be at dealprocrm.com. And then the next one, I don't know if we have our URL finalized yet, but the name is Deal Site Now. So it might be dealsitenow.com, but I need to double check on that.
Awesome. And so this is going to be the last part of the show, and I want to give you the floor again for just a few minutes. And so I kind of wanted to go back a little bit to the people that say they are too busy to be able to start a side hustle or just completely go into entrepreneurship. So what can you tell those people that are kind of hesitant in doing that?
This is what I can tell you guys. Get out a calculator, and I want you to put 24 hours in your day into your calculator. So put 24. All right. And then you maybe sleep 8 hours. Okay. So -8. And let's say maybe 10 hours of working and commuting in your lunch break. Okay. So you still got 6 more hours. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. Did you know that I heard somewhere that like corporations, like, I don't know, there was some poll, and employees that work full time at a corporation, like they actually only work like 3 hours out of their 8-hour day that they're sitting at the office.
I just saw that a few weeks ago. I read that somewhere too.
Yeah. So like, think about that. Like, so I have a big thing about 3 hours. I really think if you take 3 hours and you do the 3 top money-making activities, like if you could do no more than only these 3 things every day, what were the 3 things you could do to make money, at least immediately, right? So for a real estate investor, it's like talking to seller leads, making offers to the sellers, and then following up with the sellers until they sign your contract, right? If you did that for 3 hours a day, so you still have 3 more hours, by the way, because I gave you 6. So if you did that for 3 hours a day, you absolutely will make money in your side hustle. I have students that did just that and are making 6 figures a year. So I know that you can do it. You've got 6 hours, and I just told you, I have to borrow 3 of them to get your side hustle going.
And the no excuses mentality too, right?
Right. Absolutely. Honestly, a lot of people are just lazy, Jacob. They're just
call them out. I love
they're
this.
just lazy. They don't want to do it. Like they don't want to do it. Listen, after being with 250 people, 250 students, I've got different students with different mindsets, and I more think of it like brain chemistry. I have a daughter, she's got severe ADHD, and I know that her brain chemistry would be like one of my students that might be very hard to get them to do the 3 hours of 3 money-making activities. When you have ADHD, your brain, it's like you've got 100 open tabs up at once, and it's very hard for them to prioritize like what's important. And so they keep getting distracted. So it makes it difficult to just focus on, 3 things. Like, I get that. So you really need to, if you are one of those people, if you're listening to what I'm saying, you're like, yep, that's me, then you need to get like, be self-aware about that and fix that underlying issue before you even try this, because you're just going to get frustrated. It's okay to, say, yeah, you know what, I do struggle with focus, or maybe I do have ADHD, and like, there's doctors, there's things you can do to help that. So I really, I'm not saying, oh, you're lazy, like I don't think people have agency in being lazy. I don't think they're choosing to be that way. I think they have brain chemistry that's going against them, and it's making it hard for them to focus and to do the things that they need to do. And that's coming from a mother who raised that child that I'm seeing. She's really struggling with that. So my recommendation is like, hey, let's put the side hustle on pause right now. Let's figure out our brain chemistry first, and how can we get ourselves to focus better.
Awesome. And where can people connect with you, or if they wanted to hire you as a coach or join one of your programs, where would they do that?
Yeah, so you can definitely check me out on Instagram. My handle is This Mom Flips. I also have a YouTube channel with a bunch of videos on the topic of wholesaling. If you just look up Lauren Hardy, you'll find my YouTube channel. I have a website, laurenhardyco.com. Within there, you can find a link to the coaching program. You can find some freebies. I've got a free mini coaching, a little mini course, a free script, a free flip calculator. So check out laurenhardyco.com.
Awesome. I'll make sure to link all of those in the show description for all the listeners today. And thank you, everyone, for listening to the Mission Driven Made podcast. If you found value in this today, subscribe to the show, and then take just a few seconds and leave a 5-star review for us. And Lauren, thank you so much for taking your time to be on the show and bringing all the value you did today. It's greatly appreciated. And until next time, everyone, stay mission driven. All right, and done.